Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Good evening. I'm so glad to be able to share some of the highlights of my findings so far. Again, my name is Andrea Cornejo, and I come from Nicaragua. So my project was focused on the private forest landowners. We're talking about non-industrial owners, which most of them are small. And I will be hoping to take some lessons from these comparisons between these groups. So about my country, Nicaragua, we are a small country with half the size of the state of Oregon and double the population. We are a developing country, yes, we have sadly, one of the lowest human development index in the region, but we are very, very rich in natural resources and biodiversity, and you can see some of the beautiful wildlife species we have. I want to mention three very important things about Nicaraguan forests. One is that 25% of the country is covered by forest land, and in the country, yes, most of the forests are rainforests, tropical forests, broadleaf, but you will be surprised that we have pine species. So coniferous forests hold 12% of the forest cover in Nicaragua. But these forests are being threatened by deforestation, which is mainly driven by conversion of these lands to pastures and croplands. So why I get interested in this topic? Well, this is really a personal connection for me. Maybe you don't know, but around the world, 30% of the forests are owned or managed by private forest landowners, being their families or communities or indigenous people. So back in my country, I spent 5 years working with private forest landowners, and they have a face, they have families. So one of them is Don Chico, my friend, and he's a small forest landowner trying to achieve some environmental outcomes, but also supporting his family. So how we do that? Well, he's one of the 30% of forest owners in Nicaragua, and you can see these statistics. It's very similar between Nicaragua and Oregon. On average, 35% of the forests are owned by private owners. So I came here with some questions, and I wanted to know, first, who are these forest landowners? What are their challenges, their opportunities, and do they organize? So if there are organizations of forest landowners, how these organizations are helping them to improve forest management for environmental, social, and economic benefits. And lastly, how these organizations are relating or interacting with other stakeholders such as government, other agencies, or universities. So I went to Nueva Segovia, Nicaragua, and I went to Oregon and Washington and the United States, and I approached 3 different kind of people. So private forest landowners by themselves, representatives of their organizations, and representatives of other organizations that works to support them, such as government and non-governmental agencies. And I did several interviews, visits, sending questionnaires, and some literary review. So I will share some of my findings so far, and about the individual forest landowners. This was not a surprise for me. For the Nicaraguan landowners, the economic returns are a higher priority than the rest of the forest landowners here in the Pacific Northwest. While biodiversity, I found gladly that it's a higher priority here than for the forest landowners in Nicaragua. But you will be surprised, and I was surprised how many things they have in common. And we can mention, for example, most of them, they have no formal education in forestry. Most of them are doing some improvement in their forest, and they start to do it initially, but buy money on their own pockets. And also, they have this perception that the regulation for the forestry sector is much more strict than for those doing agriculture activities. And also, some of them are resentful of the negative opinion from the public towards timber harvesting. So I think this tells us much about how we need to improve communication between the public and the private forest land owners. Now, concerning their organizations, it was also surprising for me that even in the US, in the Pacific Northwest, as well as in Nicaragua, there is a small percentage really of the individual landowners that belong to an organization. Now, most of the leadership roles in these organizations are based on volunteers. But when these organizations are in place, they are really facilitating to their members education, training, market opportunities, political voice, and in overall opportunities for implement a better and sustainable forest management. Now, a little bit about the difference that I want to highlight. The funding, membership fees are an important part of the funding for the organizations in the Pacific Northwest, while in Nicaragua, it's not so important. The membership fees really don't represent an income, and they depend more on small contributions or even remains of past grants. So in the organizations in the Pacific Northwest, they do more activities per year and they engage and relate more with their members. In Nicaragua, not so much. So you will say increasing membership will be a strategy for organizations, not for the ones in Nicaragua. They don't want to increase the memberships. And you can ask me later why. So some lessons that I'm taking home, it's about partnerships. Partnerships. The organization of forest land owners, if they want to increase the benefits for their members, they don't need to do all by themselves. They can partner with industry, with government, and with other organizations that relate to them and to their vision. Leadership succession, it's very important and very strategic for this organization. Start to think about how you will replace the current leadership with people, other young people, because the ones now are getting tired of being the leaders. And university extension. University extension can play a big role in helping to educate the landowners, and it sounds like a good partnership. So back in Nicaragua, I plan to sharing the results with all the people I interacted with before coming and other audiences, so to promote a dialogue among forest stakeholders and to inspire some solutions. And one of the things I think we need to evaluate the feasibility and development of some non-timber forest products to increase the benefits for forest land owners. So finally, I want to say a big thank you, and some of them are here, to all the forest land owners and to all the organizations that open their homes and bring their time and shared their views with me. Thank you so much, and thank you to the World Forestry Center.